I've spent a lot of time in relationships that drained me emotionally. At first, I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't understand why I felt so exhausted and confused, even when things seemed fine on the surface. It was like a fog, and I was trapped in it, but I couldn't find the way out. It wasn't until I stepped away, until I learned to look at things with clearer eyes, that I saw the emotional manipulation for what it truly was. It's hard to admit, but for a long time, I was emotionally manipulated. I had no idea. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. They knew just what to say, how to make me feel special, how to make me feel like I was the most important person in the world. It was intoxicating. But looking back now, it wasn't love, it was control. You see, manipulation is a slow, steady process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't announce itself loudly. It sneaks in under the guise of love and care, leaving you second-guessing yourself. It makes you believe that your reality is wrong, and their version is the truth. I didn't even know it was happening to me until I was deep in it. The first time I noticed something was off was when I began feeling responsible for their moods. I had a deep sense of guilt whenever they were upset, even if I hadn't done anything wrong. The smallest things like not answering the phone quickly enough or missing a message would cause a huge emotional reaction. They would lash out, turn cold, or act as though I'd betrayed them. It felt like walking on eggshells all the time. At first I thought it was me. Maybe I wasn't being understanding enough. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. But as the months went on, I started to realize something was wrong. Every time they'd pull away or get angry, I'd do everything in my power to make them happy again, even if it meant putting my own needs aside. It was then that I realized this was emotional manipulation. One thing about emotional manipulators is that they're very good at playing the victim. They twist your words, making you feel like you're the one in the wrong, even when you know deep down that you're not. They accuse you of things you didn't do, and when you try to defend yourself, they make it seem like you're attacking them. I remember one night, just a normal evening at home. We were sitting on the couch, and I said something that I thought was harmless, but they turned it into an argument. It wasn't about what I said. It was about how they could twist my words, use them against me, and make me feel bad. The whole conversation shifted. It wasn't about the issue anymore. It was about me. I was the problem. I didn't recognize it then, but this was part of the manipulation. It wasn't about solving problems. It was about controlling the narrative. I was always made to feel like I was the one who had to change, the one who had to bend, the one who had to fix things. And when things weren't perfect, I felt like I had failed. There's a pattern to emotional manipulation, a cycle that's hard to break free from. First, the manipulator will show affection, and everything seems perfect. Then come the emotional outbursts, the guilt trips, and the blame games. Afterward, they'll apologize and promise to change, only to repeat the cycle. This back and forth can make you feel like you're constantly walking through a storm, unsure of where the sky is clear. I remember feeling so small. I started doubting myself. Maybe I really wasn't good enough. Maybe I was overreacting. The more I questioned myself, the more I became convinced that I was the problem. It was like I was losing who I was. I stopped trusting my own instincts. Every time I tried to stand up for myself, I was told that I was being unreasonable, that I was overthinking things. But then one day, something shifted. I was tired. I was emotionally drained. And I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't let someone keep manipulating me, making me feel worthless, making me feel like I had to earn their love. I realized I was in a toxic cycle, and I was the only one who could break it. It wasn't easy. Walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done. There were moments of doubt, moments where I questioned if I was making the right decision. I'd been conditioned to think I needed them, to think that this was what love was supposed to look like. But deep down, I knew this wasn't love. it was control. Breaking free from emotional manipulation is a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. But the first step is recognizing it. Recognizing that you deserve respect, that your feelings matter, and that you don't need to constantly apologize for existing. I had to learn to trust myself again. I had to remind myself that I was not responsible for their happiness, their emotions, or their actions. It took time. But over time, I started rebuilding my life. I surrounded myself with people who truly cared about me. People who lifted me up instead of tearing me down. I learned how to set boundaries, how to say no, and how to protect my peace. It wasn't just about walking away from someone. It was about walking toward myself, toward the version of me who hadn't been manipulated, who hadn't been made to feel small, who could stand tall in her own power. Healing from emotional manipulation is not about revenge or hatred. It's about reclaiming your life, your sense of self, and your freedom. It's about recognizing that you deserve genuine love that is healthy and that doesn't come with strings attached. The more I learned about emotional manipulation, the more I realized that it wasn't my fault. I hadn't deserved any of it. No one does. Emotional manipulators thrive on making you feel powerless. But you have the power to take back control. And now here I am stronger than ever, not just because I walked away, but because I walked away with the knowledge that I am enough. I don't need anyone to define my worth, and neither do you. So if you're feeling trapped, if you're stuck in a cycle of emotional manipulation, know this: you are not alone, and you have the strength within you to break free. It's going to take time, but every step you take is a step closer to reclaiming your peace, your happiness, and your life. The hardest part of breaking free from emotional manipulation was not just walking away. It was learning to live without the fear that had dominated my life for so long. For so many months, I had lived with a constant sense of dread, never knowing when the next emotional bombshell would drop. I was always on edge, afraid that something I said or did would set them off. And when that happened, it was like everything came crashing down. But here's the thing, no one tells you about emotional manipulation. It doesn't just stop when you walk away. The effects linger. Even when you're physically free, the scars remain. You still hear their voice in your head, questioning your choices, second-guessing your decisions. You still feel the echo of their accusations, their belittling words, making you feel small and insignificant. And even after you've left, you might find yourself wondering, did I do the right thing? That's where healing comes in. It's not about just walking away. It's about rebuilding yourself from the inside out. It's about taking back the parts of you that were taken without permission. I spent so many sleepless nights replaying the moments, the conversations, the gaslighting. I would sometimes question myself. Did I make too big a deal out of nothing? Did I overreact? But the truth was, no, I wasn't overreacting. My feelings were valid. I wasn't crazy. I had been manipulated, and I had the right to feel hurt, to feel betrayed, to feel angry. The process of healing was messy. It wasn't like flipping a switch and suddenly everything was okay. It wasn't a straight path, but rather a winding journey, filled with days when I felt empowered and days when I felt like I had taken one step forward and 3 steps back. There were times I was tempted to go back, to fall into old patterns. But I reminded myself why I left. I reminded myself that I deserved more than what I had received. I deserved kindness, respect, and love that didn't come with conditions. In the beginning, I turned to therapy. Talking to someone helped me make sense of everything. I'd been too close to the situation to see clearly. But through therapy, I was able to put the pieces together. I learned about the different tactics manipulators use, how they make you feel responsible for their emotions, how they twist your reality, how they keep you trapped in cycles of guilt and confusion. But the more I understood, the clearer my path forward became. I also surrounded myself with people who genuinely cared about me. people who didn't make me feel small or question my worth. I learned that not everyone would try to manipulate me. Not everyone would try to control me. There were people out there who would love me for who I truly was, without the need for games or strings attached. One of the most important things I learned during this healing process was to trust myself again. For so long, I had second-guessed my thoughts and feelings, always wondering if I was wrong. But through time, I started to trust my intuition again. I learned to set boundaries. I learned that I didn't have to tolerate disrespect or emotional games in the name of love. I also realized something incredibly important. Emotional manipulation isn't just about controlling you. It's about breaking you down, little by little, so that you forget who you are, so that you feel like you're nothing without the manipulator. But that couldn't be further from the truth. You are whole. You are enough. You don't need anyone to define your worth. I started rediscovering my passions, the things I used to love but had put aside. I picked up the books I hadn't read in years. I joined new groups. I tried new things. And most importantly, I started doing things for myself again. I permitted myself to be happy, to find joy in the little things, to laugh without guilt, and to enjoy life without the constant weight of someone else's emotional turmoil. Healing also meant forgiveness, but not for them, for me. I had to forgive myself for staying in that situation as long as I did. I had to forgive myself for allowing someone to treat me like I didn't matter. It wasn't about excusing their behavior. It was about freeing myself from the chains of resentment and anger. I had to let go of the bitterness that had been eating at me. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And in that forgiveness, I found freedom. I found peace. I also learned to be kind to myself. There were days when I felt weak, when I doubted myself, and when I wanted to throw in the towel. But I learned to treat myself with the same compassion I would offer a friend in need. I gave myself grace. I learned that healing wasn't linear and that it was okay to take things one step at a time. One of the most empowering moments came when I realized that I didn't need validation from anyone. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need to prove my worth to anyone. The only person I needed to prove anything to was myself. And that was the most liberating realization of all. As I walked away from the manipulation, I gained more clarity about what I wanted in relationships moving forward. I learned to ask for respect. I learned to say no without feeling guilty. I learned to communicate openly and honestly without fear of being accused or blamed. I knew what I would tolerate, and I knew what I wouldn't. And that was power. I'll tell you this, walking away from emotional manipulation isn't easy, but it's worth it. You might doubt yourself at first. You might feel lost, but just know that there is a better life waiting for you on the other side. There is a future where you're free from the control, the lies, and the constant emotional strain. So, if you're watching this and you feel like you're stuck in the same place I was, I want you to know that you are not alone. Healing takes time, but you have the strength to get through it. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Don't let anyone convince you that you're too much. You are worthy of love, of respect, and peace. You deserve to be happy, just as you are, right now, in this moment. Take that first step, and when you do, you'll find that the world starts to open up again. You'll start to see the beauty in things that once felt dim. And you'll remember who you are. Strong, resilient, and powerful. If this story helped you, if it gave you the courage to walk away, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Together, we can break free from emotional manipulation and build lives filled with true peace, strength, and joy. You're not alone, and your story isn't over yet.